Never tell people what you do. There is a silence that speaks louder than ambition. It walks into rooms without explanation. It builds without noise. It sharpens in the dark while others perform in the light. I did not always understand this. I once believed the louder you declare, the faster you succeed. That if people knew your plans, they would help you. That if you broadcast your goals, you would be held accountable and admired. But life has a different voice, a quieter one. One that whispered to me during my greatest disappointments, "Do not tell them. Build it. Show them nothing. Give them everything." I used to chase recognition. I needed people to know I was working. I wanted applause before I had even finished the performance. I wasted years talking instead of building, sharing instead of sharpening, hoping someone's praise would accelerate my journey. But praise is not fuel. It is a distraction. The moment you start performing for others, you lose the rhythm of your own soul. And so I stopped explaining. I stopped announcing. I stopped trying to impress the world, and my life changed. This book is not about secrecy. It is not about fear or isolation. It is about power, the quiet kind, the kind that moves mountains in silence, the kind that creates legacy without needing spotlight. When I say never tell people what you do, I am not inviting you into a life of hiding. I am inviting you into a life of focus, precision, intent, to work in silence, not because you are afraid to fail, but because your work is more sacred than performance. The world trains you to seek approval, to dress up your progress and display it for likes, comments, congratulations. But the cost of this external validation is your internal freedom. You begin to live for the reaction, not the result. And in doing so, you dilute your own discipline. You trade process for performance. The greatest work in the world, be it in business, health, relationships, or mastery, is done away from the crowd. Because true growth does not need to be seen to be real. It needs to be lived. It needs to be chosen again and again in the quiet. There is a reason seeds grow in the dark, a reason why the most dangerous storms are the ones you do not see coming. Quietness is not weakness, it is wisdom. And in this world of noise, wisdom is your greatest weapon. When you stop telling people what you do, you start building without permission. You stop asking the world to believe in you. You start becoming someone who no longer needs to be believed in because you are becoming undeniable. That is what this book is about. You will read these words and recognize yourself, because I am not telling you something new. I am reminding you of what you already know deep down. You have been giving too much away too early. You have been explaining, defending, posting, proving, and none of it has made you stronger. It has made you more tired, more dependent, more fragmented. What if you pulled it all back in? What if you stopped telling them what you are doing and simply did it? This book is a permission slip, not from me, but from your own spirit. Permission to be silent, to be focused, to become dangerous again, not through aggression, but through alignment. There is a way of living where you no longer need to convince anyone of who you are, where your work speaks so loudly your presence does not need words. But you must earn that way of life. You must walk through the discomfort of invisibility. You must choose discipline over display. You must become immune to praise. The ones who win are not always the loudest. They are the ones who endure in private. They are the ones who have trained themselves not to flinch when no one claps. They are the ones who no longer announce their goals because they are too busy becoming them. And yes, there will be moments of doubt, moments where you wonder if your silence is weakness, but it is not. Silence is strength in waiting. It is purpose learning to stand on its own feet. And if you can hold that silence long enough, something extraordinary will be born in you, unshakable clarity. So here is the truth. Most people tell others what they are doing because they are not sure they will actually do it. Speaking becomes a substitute for action. Talking becomes a way to feel progress without making it. But not you. Not anymore. From this moment forward, you will practice the art of the quiet build. You will become a storm in stillness. You will stop telling them, and you will start becoming. Chapter 1. From Silence to Substance. It begins as a whisper, an instinct that something in your life is too exposed, too vulnerable to opinion, too dependent on applause. Maybe you told your friends you were starting a business and they smiled politely. Maybe you shared your dreams with your family and they nodded, but their eyes betrayed the disbelief. Or maybe worse, they believed in you too soon and their encouragement became a trap. Now you have to succeed for them, not for yourself. That is the curse of early exposure. It forces your inner world to answer to the outer one. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your dreams no longer feel like yours. We live in a world that glorifies visibility. Show your progress, share your goals, post your journey. But what they do not tell you is that the moment you share your dreams, you begin renting them to the crowd. You lose ownership, because now it is not just your vision, it is a performance. And performance requires maintenance. You are no longer building from a place of purity. You are building to be seen, to be liked, to be followed. But the most meaningful things you will ever create will not come from this energy. They will come from the opposite, the solitude of commitment. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something for yourself and told no one, not even a whisper, not even a hint, just the quiet fulfillment of knowing you were growing without needing validation? If you cannot remember, then you are not alone. This is how most people live now, exposed, distracted, overstimulated. They document every step of the journey, hoping someone will applaud them into completion. But applause cannot carry you through resistance. Only conviction can. And conviction is born in silence. Why do we tell people what we are doing? Because we are afraid of invisibility. Afraid that if no one knows, it does not count. Afraid that if we do not post it, it did not happen. But this fear is a trap. It keeps you tied to the surface. It makes you addicted to reaction. And it steals from you the one thing all mastery requires: solitude. You cannot create powerfully if you are constantly explaining yourself. You cannot evolve deeply if you are always asking for agreement. The deeper your work, the quieter your process must become. Silence is not just absence of speech, it is presence of focus. It is what happens when you stop broadcasting and start building, when you stop performing and start practicing, when you stop convincing and start becoming. And yes, it is uncomfortable at first, because you have been trained to equate visibility with progress. You have been taught that if no one sees it, it is not real. But this is false. The most real things in life, your healing, your faith, your growth, your discipline, are invisible long before they are undeniable. There is a discipline called private momentum. It is what happens when you show up every day, do the work, and tell no one. You let the results speak. You let the energy compound. You do not interrupt your rhythm to announce your progress. You keep going. You keep building. And then one day the world sees something they cannot ignore, not because you told them, but because you became it. That is power. That is substance, and it cannot be faked. But here is the hard truth. Most people will never get there, not because they lack talent, but because they leak too much energy into explanation. They talk too much. They post too soon. They ask for validation before they have built anything worthy of it. And in doing so, they weaken their own resolve. They become addicted to the feeling of starting, not the reality of enduring. But you are different. You are here because something in you is tired of leaking, tired of being visible and empty, tired of starting loud and finishing nowhere. You want substance. You want power. You want to become the kind of person who no longer needs to explain because your life speaks louder than your words. So how do you begin? You begin by pulling your energy inward. You stop sharing every insight. You stop announcing every plan. You stop trying to prove that you are doing something great, and you start quietly becoming someone great. You put your head down. You build. You train. You sharpen. And when the time is right, your work will rise like the sun, unmistakable, unignorable, and unannounced. That is the way of the quiet warrior. Let the others talk. Let them post. Let them shout into the void for likes. You are not here for noise. You are here for legacy. And legacy is not built in comments or captions. It is built in private decisions repeated daily in silence. It is built in the choices you make when no one is watching. And every time you choose discipline over display, you get stronger. Every time you choose silence over spectacle, you get sharper. Every time you choose purpose over praise, you move closer to the life you were born to live. If you have listened this far, chances are you are like me, no longer willing to live a life that just drifts by. Take a moment to reflect on the last 3 decisions you made. Did they move you forward or hold you back? Answer this question in the comments below. No one else can answer it for you. And your future begins the moment you decide to act, even if it is just a small step. If you found this message helpful and meaningful, please consider sharing it. You never know, it might just change someone's life who really needs it. And remember to subscribe to the channel to receive the latest notifications. Chapter 2. The noise that steals your power. You were not born distracted. You were not born needing to explain yourself. You arrived in this world complete, silent, and powerful, but somewhere along the way you learned to broadcast. You learned that applause could soothe your fear. You learned that if enough people approved, maybe you would believe in yourself too. That is where the unraveling began, not in failure, but in the addiction to being seen. The world trains you to believe that visibility equals value. They hand out platforms like candy and tell you that if you are not building in public, you are falling behind. But here is what they do not say: every time you speak your dream, too soon you weaken it. Every time you seek praise instead of results, you fracture your focus. And every time you perform for an audience that does not understand your path, you start to question your own direction. This is the noise that steals your power, the constant performing, the endless explaining, the updates that become obligations. You wake up thinking about what to say, not what to do. You chase trends instead of truth. And before long, your vision belongs to them, not to you. You have become a curator of public opinion, not a creator of private conviction. But this can change. It changes the moment you decide that your energy is too precious to be spent on empty performance. It changes the moment you stop asking the world to believe in your potential and start becoming your potential in silence. That is the moment everything shifts, not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop trying to be impressive. You start being intentional. Understand this: there is a kind of person who never posts, never explains, never announces, and yet everyone feels them. Their work moves quietly through the world and speaks with weight. Their presence changes rooms not because of what they say, but because of who they are. This kind of power cannot be faked. It is not built through branding. It is earned through discipline, consistency, and a refusal to dilute energy through noise. You do not need to tell people what you are doing. You need to do it. You need to give your process the privacy it deserves, not because you are hiding, but because you are honoring it, not because you fear criticism, but because you value peace. When you begin to treat your goals like sacred ground, you will stop inviting strangers to walk on them with muddy feet. You will protect your focus like your life depends on it, because it does. There is a freedom that only comes when you stop needing to be seen. It is the freedom to evolve without commentary, the freedom to fail without fear, the freedom to rise without permission. And once you taste it, you will never go back. You will look at the world screaming for attention, and you will smile quietly, knowing you are building something no applause can measure. But here is the paradox: when you stop trying to be visible, your value increases. When you stop performing, your presence deepens. When you stop telling them what you do, your results begin to speak with a voice so loud it echoes in silence. That is the reward for letting go of the noise. That is what you are moving toward, a life of quiet excellence, a legacy forged in discipline, not display. Imagine waking up tomorrow and saying nothing about your goals, not because you are ashamed, but because you are so focused that words feel like a waste of energy. You just move, you train, you build, you become. That kind of momentum cannot be stopped. It is not held together by opinions. It is forged by fire. And that fire grows hottest when no one is watching. You must learn to find satisfaction in solitude. You must learn to build without applause, to grow without announcements, to improve without external pressure. That is when your power becomes unshakable, because no one can take what they do not even know exists. No one can destroy what you do not expose, and no one can stop what is growing in silence with roots that run deep beneath the surface. You are not here to be loud. You are here to be legendary, and legends are not made through noise. They are made through the daily decision to choose focus over fame, depth over display, mastery over marketing. If you truly want to rise, you must stop leaking your energy through your mouth. Let your work carry the weight. Let your results cast the shadow. Do not be afraid to disappear for a while, to step back from the crowd, to retreat into your own quiet discipline. The caterpillar must vanish into the cocoon before it can fly. And you too must vanish, not to hide, but to transform. Let the world forget you for a moment, and when you return, let them meet someone they do not recognize, someone who no longer needs to explain, someone who has become undeniable. Chapter 3. The Weight of Unspoken Greatness. There is a kind of strength that never asks for attention. It does not boast. It does not demand acknowledgement. It walks softly, but its presence cannot be ignored. This strength is not found in loud declarations or polished self-presentations. It is born in the trenches where no one sees you, where no one claps for you, where the only witness to your progress is the echo of your own breath. This is where greatness is forged, not on stages, but in silence. Most people live with an unbearable pressure to be understood. They explain themselves into exhaustion, hoping someone will finally nod with approval. But here is the truth. No one needs to understand your journey, because it is not theirs to approve. And every time you try to explain a vision, they were never meant to see you dilute its power. You shrink the dream to fit their comfort. You slow the momentum to match their pace. And in the end, you trade your fire for their permission. You do not owe anyone your blueprint. You do not need to make your dreams digestible. The seed of your calling was planted in you, not in the opinions of those who cannot see beyond their own limitations. So why hand them the steering wheel to your destiny? Why allow their doubt to shape your decisions? Why waste one more ounce of breath explaining something that was never meant to be spoken before it is finished? There is something sacred about holding your vision close, protecting it like an ember in the wind, speaking only when the fire is strong enough to light the sky. That is not secrecy. That is reverence. Reverence for what you are becoming. Reverence for the battles you fight alone. Reverence for the process that cannot be packaged into words without losing its soul. Think of the oak tree. It begins as an acorn buried in dark soil. No one sees it. No one applauds its effort. But it pushes through the darkness silently, persistently, until it breaks into the light. And even then, it grows for years before it ever becomes shade for others. Would it grow faster if the wind cheered it on? Would it grow stronger if it posted daily updates of its progress? Of course not. It grows because it is its nature to grow, and that must become your nature too. You were not made for public validation. You were made for silent mastery. You were made to build brick by brick, thought by thought, day by day, with no one watching. And then one day the world will turn and say, "Where did this come from?" And you will smile because you know. It came from years of choosing depth over display, choosing clarity over clamor, choosing work over words. The people who walk in true power are not the loudest in the room. They are not the ones constantly telling you what they are doing. They are the ones whose lives radiate quiet conviction. You feel it in their presence. You trust it in their actions, because they have nothing to prove. They have nothing to perform. They have simply become. But you cannot become that kind of person if you are still looking for confirmation, if you are still leaking your energy into explanations, if you are still breaking your focus to share your every move. You must choose between applause and authority, between being seen and being unshakable, between making noise and making history. This is not about silence for the sake of silence. This is about strategy, about discipline, about creating a force that cannot be dismantled by doubt, because it was not built with fragile bricks of opinion. When you keep your vision to yourself, you keep it pure. When you let your work speak for you, your voice gains weight. And when you stop needing to be seen, you become someone worth seeing. It will not be easy. The urge to share will rise. The hunger for recognition will whisper. The need to be known will ache. But let that ache become fuel. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you that you are not here to be praised. You are here to become. And becoming requires privacy. Becoming requires patience. Becoming requires you to trust the process more than you trust applause. Because one day the world will come looking. They will want to know how you did it, where you came from, why your presence feels different, and you will tell them nothing. Not out of pride, but out of peace. Because the ones who understand do not need explanation, and the ones who demand explanation will never understand. Let your silence be your edge. Let your focus be your fortress. Let your results speak languages no caption can translate. And in the quiet you will hear the only voice that matters, your own strong and sure whispering, I am becoming something they will never be able to ignore. Chapter 4. The Discipline of the Invisible. There is a place you must go if you truly want to change your life. It is not a destination on any map. It is not found in books or in other people's approval. It lives in the quiet spaces of your own discipline, behind closed doors before the sun rises, after the world has gone to sleep. It is the invisible life, the life no one sees, the life no one applauds, and yet it is the only life that can truly set you free. Every breakthrough begins in obscurity. Every transformation starts in silence. Because before the world can believe in what you do, you must become someone who no longer needs their belief. And that only happens in the dark, when you keep showing up not for recognition, but for truth. When you wake up early, not to post about it, but to prepare your mind. When you say no to distractions, not so others can see your discipline, but because you finally value your own peace more than their opinions. This is the discipline of the invisible. It is what separates the few who rise from the many who remain trapped in potential. The masses want shortcuts. They want to be seen without doing the work. They want the benefits of mastery without the burden of repetition, but not you. You have chosen a different path. You have chosen to disappear so you can truly arrive. Look around. The world is obsessed with noise. Everyone is announcing, performing, convincing, but who is actually becoming, who is sharpening in secret, who is refining their craft with no one watching? These are the rare ones, the dangerous ones, the ones whose lives feel like gravity when they walk in a room, not because they talk the loudest, but because they carry the weight of invisible victories. You see, there is a reason why the most powerful people you know speak the least about their plans. They are not hiding, they are building. They do not need to tell you what they are doing because they are too focused on becoming it. They understand that the more energy you give to explanation, the less you have for execution. They understand that real work requires real privacy, not secrecy rooted in fear, but silence rooted in strength. And make no mistake, it takes strength to stay invisible. It takes strength to hold your ground when no one notices, to train in the dark when others are performing in the light, to get stronger without applause, to get sharper without confirmation. But this is where the true ones rise, in the private hours, in the unseen choices, in the quiet that crushes the ego and builds the soul. Do not confuse visibility with value. Just because someone is loud does not mean they are clear. Just because they are seen does not mean they are strong. The most valuable things in life grow beneath the surface. Roots before fruit, foundation before fame, depth before display. And if you skip the invisible work, you will collapse the moment the spotlight touches you. So train in silence. Build in secret. Heal without announcement. Let the work be the loudest thing about you. Let your results speak sentences your mouth never has to form. Let your life become a statement so clear that even your silence becomes undeniable. You will want to share. You will want to prove. You will want to say, "Look at me, I am doing it." But do not yet. Keep building, keep going, keep becoming, because the longer you hold the silence, the deeper your roots grow. And one day when the timing is right, your life will rise so powerfully that they will not need to be told. They will know. If you have stayed with me this far, then I know you feel it too. That pull to go deeper, that hunger to live a life that is real, not just visible. Do not ignore it. Feed it, protect it, honor it. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are simply preparing for a level that requires more of you. And that is not something you can post about. That is something you become. Now I want to ask you a question. What are you building right now that no one sees? What private discipline are you choosing that no one claps for but that you know is making you unshakable? Leave your answer in the comments. Your courage might inspire someone else who is walking the same invisible path. And if this message spoke to you, share it. There are people out there searching for the strength to be silent. Let them know they are not alone. And if you want to stay connected, subscribe to the channel. We are building something real here, quietly, powerfully together. Chapter 5. Why They Do Not Deserve to Know. It is not bitterness. It is not pride. It is not arrogance. It is clarity. The reason you no longer share your every move is because you finally understand this simple truth. Not everyone deserves to know what you are building. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your vision, and many will not even see it when it is done. And that is perfectly fine, because what you are building is not for their understanding. It is for your becoming. You see, the people you think need to know do not. And the people who truly matter, they feel you even when you say nothing. That is the test. Can you stay loyal to a future only you can see, even when everyone around you seems blind to it? Can you walk the path without permission? Can you hold your tongue when your ego wants to prove a point? Because the ones who tell too much, too soon, they fall. Not because they are weak, but because they gave away their strength in the form of explanation. You do not owe anyone a story until the story is finished. You do not need to give previews to people who would rather critique than build. And you do not need to hand over the blueprints of your future to those who are still living in fear of their own. Most people will never understand what drives you. They will never see the sleepless nights, the lonely mornings, the unspoken battles. They will never know what it costs to grow in silence. And if you try to explain, they will misunderstand. They will project their own limits onto your calling. They will water down your fire until it flickers into something small and safe. So stop trying. Let them stay confused. Let them doubt. Let them whisper, because while they talk, you are transforming. The truth is, most people only want to hear your dreams if they can fit them into their story. If your growth challenges their comfort, they will resist it. If your vision makes their stagnation feel exposed, they will mock it. And if you are not careful, you will find yourself shrinking, not because you are not ready, but because you tried to include people who were never meant to be part of your becoming. This is not about isolation. This is about discernment. You must protect your path. You must choose your silence with precision, because every time you speak your vision, you are planting it into the soil of another mind, and not every mind is fertile. Some are dry, some are toxic, some will poison the very thing you are trying to grow. So keep it close, keep it sacred. Let the roots dig deep before you ever let the branches be seen. One of the most powerful decisions you will ever make is to stop explaining yourself, not out of defiance, but out of self-respect, because you finally understand that real growth does not need validation. It needs commitment. It needs focus. It needs the quiet room, the early hour, the discipline that repeats when no one is watching. That is where your power is born, not in telling them, in becoming something they never saw coming. You do not need to clear the fog for them. You do not need to convince them of what is coming. You need to build, brick by brick, moment by moment. And one day, when the foundation is unshakable and the walls are rising, they will look up and say, "I did not see this coming." And you will smile because you knew. You saw it all along. You just chose not to explain. And yes, it will be lonely at times. There will be days when you want someone to understand, when you want to scream, "Do you see what I am becoming?" But that is when you dig deeper. That is when you remind yourself, I am not building this for applause. I am building this for peace, for power, for purpose. And none of that requires an audience. So do not give your fire to those who carry water. Do not let your light be dimmed by those who fear the dark. And do not explain the mountain to those who refuse to climb. Keep walking, keep building, keep becoming. Chapter 6. The Hidden War Within. There is a moment that arrives quietly, without announcement or warning. You are sitting in your room. Maybe it is early morning before the sun breaks through, or maybe it is late at night when the world is asleep. But something inside you wakes up, not with excitement, but with tension. A quiet war begins inside your mind. One voice says, "Tell them, let them know, show them you are doing something." The other voice says, "Wait, not yet, hold it in, let the fire grow." That is the war between ego and purpose, and most people lose it. The ego wants applause. It wants credit. It wants to be seen building even if the building is not done. It wants to be praised for progress even if the progress is still in theory. The ego is loud. It screams. It panics. It says, what if they forget about you? What if they think you are not doing anything? What if someone else takes your place? But your purpose is quiet. It is calm. It is stable. It does not rush. It does not perform. It simply reminds you again and again, you are not here to be noticed. You are here to be necessary. And necessary things do not scream. They serve, they anchor, they last. You will never master your life until you master this inner war, because the temptation to speak too soon never fully goes away. Every time you take a step forward, the old part of you will want to announce it, to prove it, to show the world that you are not stagnant. But every time you choose silence, every time you choose to hold your power rather than leak it, you win, not against them, against the old version of you. You win when you choose obscurity over optics. You win when you choose repetition over recognition. You win when you choose peace over performance. Because every time you do, you are strengthening the foundation of your future. You are building a life that cannot be shaken by opinions. A character that does not need defending, a confidence that does not need applause. But understand, this silence is not passive. It is not avoidance. It is not weakness. It is an act of supreme control. It is the decision to stop letting other people's attention dictate your direction. It is the moment you stop living for their curiosity and start living for your calling. And that takes courage. Because silence feels like dying until it starts to feel like freedom. I know what it is like to crave proof, to want someone to see how hard you are working, to hope that someone, anyone, will say, "I see you," but sometimes they will not. And that is your test. Will you keep going when no one notices? Will you keep showing up when the room is empty? Will you keep building when no one claps? That is what separates the amateur from the master, the visible from the truly valuable. Think of the iceberg. What we see above the surface is impressive, but it is nothing without what lies beneath. The unseen mass, the years of pressure, the layers of cold, silent strength. That is what keeps it stable. That is what makes it unmovable. You are the same. What they do not see is what makes you powerful. The private battles, the quiet disciplines, the 1,000 small decisions to keep going when nothing around you changes. That is your mass. That is your edge. Do not give it away just to be noticed. This world teaches you to seek attention, but what you need is alignment. Attention fades. Alignment compounds. Attention can be given. Alignment must be earned. And you earn it in the silent hours, in the daily choices, in the spaces no one will ever applaud, but that will shape everything. You must decide who you are becoming, not what you are broadcasting, not what you are sharing, who you are becoming. Because when you get clear on that, you stop needing to say so much. You realize that your future does not need an audience. It needs your focus, your patience, your unwavering commitment to do the work, even if the world never claps. And slowly, everything shifts. You stop oversharing. You stop explaining. You stop needing to be understood, because you finally understand yourself. You know where you are going. You know what it costs. And you know that anything built to last must first be built in the dark. So hold your silence like a sword. Use it to cut away the noise. Use it to sharpen your will. Use it to become someone so rooted, so real, so undeniable, that when the time comes to speak, the world will listen without you having to raise your voice. Now I want to ask you directly, what have you been telling the world that you should have kept for yourself? Where are you leaking your strength by trying to be seen too soon? Reflect on that, and if this message hits home, I ask you to comment below with one thing. You will now choose to protect in silence, not to hide it, but to honor it. And if this helped you, share it with someone you care about. We are not building noise. We are building depth. Chapter 7. The dangers of being understood too soon. There is a strange kind of betrayal that happens when you are understood too early. You think it is a gift that someone finally sees what you are becoming. You feel excited, hopeful, validated. But what feels like understanding is often an illusion. Because when people say they understand, they are not seeing you. They are interpreting you through the lens of who they are. And when you build your life on that kind of understanding, your foundation becomes fragile. We long to be known. It is human. We want someone to recognize the greatness forming inside us. But most of the time, when we try to explain our vision too soon, we walk away feeling emptier than before. Not because the other person was unkind, but because no one can carry the weight of your potential except you. Your dream is yours for a reason. It is not fragile, but it is sensitive. And when you expose it too early, you let the wrong energy into something that was meant to stay pure until it was strong enough to stand on its own. There is nothing more dangerous than misplacing your hunger to be seen. When you hand your early ideas to the wrong people, you open the door to 1,000 tiny doubts. They may not say it outright. They may smile and nod, but somewhere in the silence between their words, you hear it. You really think you can do that. And even if they do not speak it, their energy speaks louder. Doubt can be dressed in politeness, and fear can wear a mask of concern. So you begin to shrink. Not all at once, quietly, subtly. You revise your dream to make it safer. You adjust your tone to make it more acceptable. You delay your next step just long enough to think twice. And in doing so, you trade your originality for approval. That is the cost of being understood too soon. It feels good in the moment, but it slows your momentum. It comforts your ego, but weakens your conviction. You were not meant to be understood in your early stages. You were meant to be underestimated, ignored, overlooked, because that gives you space to grow without interference. It gives you freedom to fail without commentary. It gives you the fire to build without applause. When no one is watching, you are free to make your mistakes honestly. You are free to refine your gift in the dark. And when the time comes to reveal it, it will be undeniable, not because you explained it, but because you embodied it. You must fall in love with being misunderstood. Let it become your shield. Let it protect your process. Let it remind you that being unseen is not a punishment, it is preparation. Because the people who are truly dangerous in this world are not the ones constantly explaining what they are doing. They are the ones who let their lives speak. They are the ones who do not argue with doubt, they rise above it. And when they walk into the room, they do not have to say a word. You feel them. So protect your silence. Stop trying to be understood. Stop explaining your process to people who were never called to carry your burden. Trust that the work you are doing in the dark will matter far more than the approval you might receive in the light. Because this is how legends are made, not by being seen, but by being steady. Not by being heard, but by being real. And yes, it will hurt sometimes. To be ignored, to be doubted, to be told you are dreaming too big. But that pain is not a sign that something is wrong. It is proof that you are walking the road few are willing to walk. It is the tax you pay for refusing to shrink. And if you can carry that pain without running to explain yourself, you will become something that does not need to be explained. Most people are addicted to being seen, but the ones who change the world, they disappear for a while. They work in the shadows. They protect their power. And then when they return, they do not come back with announcements. They come back with results. Let them misunderstand you. Let them write you off. Let them whisper behind your back. While they do that, you are growing. While they talk, you are transforming. While they predict your limits, you are rewriting them. That is the power of the unseen. That is the danger of becoming without performance. You do not need to correct them. You do not need to make them see. You need to keep building. You need to keep showing up. And one day your life will say everything they never understood. Your silence will have told the truth the whole time. Chapter 8. When you no longer need to be heard. There comes a day when you wake up and no longer crave the echo. You do not rush to post. You do not reach for validation. You do not feel the urge to explain where you are or why you are doing what you are doing. There is no anxiety in being unseen, no panic in being quiet. You are simply moving, with intention, with peace, with a force that no longer needs to be loud. That is the day your life changes. Because most people live in noise not by accident but by dependence. They need to be heard to feel real. They need feedback to feel progress. They need to narrate their journey to avoid feeling invisible. But visibility is not the same as power, and being heard is not the same as being rooted. The tree that stands tallest is not the one that speaks, it is the one with the deepest roots. And deep roots are grown in silence. When you no longer need to be heard, you finally start listening to yourself, to your instincts, to your future calling you forward. You begin to hear the deeper voice inside you, the one that is not shaped by the crowd, not addicted to applause, not reactive to doubt. It is the voice of your soul, and it only speaks clearly when the noise goes quiet. This does not mean you stop sharing forever. It means you stop sharing prematurely. You stop leaking energy into every space that invites you to prove yourself. You stop scattering your focus into conversations that were never meant to hold your truth. Because when you are still seeking to be heard, you are often shouting into rooms that were never built to receive you. And when you are finally grounded, you do not waste your voice. There is something sacred about doing your work without reporting it, about showing up every day with no camera, no applause, no announcement, just you and the work, you and the weight, you and the vision no one else sees. That is when your actions start to mature. That is when your words start to carry power. Because you are no longer trying to convince anyone, you are simply becoming undeniable. And you will start to notice a shift. The people around you will ask, "What are you working on?" And you will smile not with secrecy, but with peace. You do not owe them an answer, not because you are hiding, but because you are protecting, because you finally understand that your life is too valuable to narrate it for the wrong audience. The people who need to know will know, not because you told them, but because they watched you rise, because they saw the change in your presence, because they felt the difference in your discipline. And even if they never say a word, you will know. Your silence carried more weight than your explanations ever could. This is the quiet power you were meant to walk in, not a silence born of fear, but a silence born of self-respect, of alignment, of clarity. When you reach this place, your whole life starts to feel different. You stop rushing, you stop chasing, you stop overthinking how you appear, because you finally realize real power does not posture. It does not beg to be heard. It simply is. And when you live like this, the world responds. People start to lean in, not because you asked for their attention, but because your energy now carries gravity. You are no longer loud, but you are unmissable. You are no longer everywhere, but your presence lingers. You do not speak often, but when you do, the room goes quiet. Because they feel it. You have become something rare, a person who built their life without asking the world to applaud each step. That is legacy, that is presence, that is the fruit of silence well lived. So I ask you now, what part of your life are you still narrating, not because you need to, but because you are afraid of being invisible? Where are you still hoping for someone to say, "I see you," when what you really need is to say it to yourself? Take a breath. Take a step back. Let the noise fade. Begin again quietly, deliberately, unapologetically. You do not need to be heard. You need to build. And if this message reached something deep in you, leave a comment. What will you now do without saying a word about it? And if this touched your heart, share it forward. Somewhere out there, someone else is searching for the strength to stay silent. Let them know they are not alone. And subscribe to the channel if you want to keep walking this path with us. Chapter 9. The invisible phase that changes everything. There is a phase in every journey that almost no one talks about. It is not glamorous, it does not photograph well. It is hard to explain to friends, impossible to post about, and too raw to fit into motivational slogans. But this phase is everything. It is the time when nothing is working yet, but everything is changing. It is the season where results are invisible, but roots are growing deeper than ever before. It is the silent construction of the self. Most people quit here, not because they are weak, but because they do not recognize what this phase actually is. They think silence means failure. They think lack of recognition means lack of progress. They mistake stillness for stagnation. But in truth, this is the most sacred part of your becoming. It is where your old life breaks apart quietly. It is where your future forms in shadows. It is where the unglamorous work of transformation takes place. You will not feel confident here. You will not always feel certain. Some mornings you will wake up with no proof that you are changing. The outside world will still look the same. The numbers might still be low. The feedback might still be absent. But your soul will know. Somewhere deep inside, there will be a steady beat that says, "Keep going." Something is happening, even if no one sees it yet. This phase tests everything: your patience, your identity, your commitment. Because there is no applause in the invisible season. There is no instant gratification. You are pouring effort into something that does not reward you immediately. And that is the purest kind of power, the decision to keep moving forward without anyone watching, to build without performance, to give without recognition, to grow without witness. This is where your character is formed, not in the spotlight, but in the obscurity. Because when you keep showing up without being seen, you are proving to yourself that your intentions are real. You are not here for show, you are here for mastery. And mastery demands solitude. It demands silence. It demands a level of self-respect that says, even if no one knows, I still know. Even if no one claps, I still show up. But this phase also breaks you, not to destroy you, but to remove what cannot come with you. Your need for approval, your craving for validation, your addiction to being understood, all of it must die here. Because the version of you that is rising does not need applause to breathe. They are fueled by vision. They are sustained by discipline. They are carried by faith. And yes, it will feel lonely. You will watch others rise faster, louder, more visibly. You will wonder if you are doing something wrong, but you are not behind. You are just building something that requires deeper roots. You are not late. You are just committed to something real. And real things take longer. Real growth is slow, silent, sacred. There is a reason most people never reach their potential. It is not lack of talent. It is not lack of resources. It is because they abandon the invisible phase. They need to be seen too soon. They rush the process. They try to turn sacred work into content. And in doing so, they lose the very power they were meant to carry. They trade substance for speed. They choose applause over alignment. And they miss the miracle. But not you. You are still here, still walking, still trusting. You may not have the results yet, but you have the rhythm. You may not have the audience, but you have the anointing. And that is enough. Because what you are building is not for show. It is for legacy. It is for freedom. It is for peace. And peace cannot be rushed. So stay in it. Stay steady. Let the silence do its work. Let the invisible phase refine you, rebuild you, remind you who you really are. You do not need to see everything to believe in it. Some of the greatest miracles unfold in places no one notices until one day they are impossible to ignore. This is your cocoon, your preparation, your fire, and when the time is right you will rise not louder but clearer, not more famous but more real, and nothing can stop that kind of emergence. Nothing can shake that kind of foundation. Chapter 10. Let them wonder. At some point on your path, you will realize you no longer owe anyone an update. Not your parents, not your friends, not the ones who cheer for you, not the ones who doubt you. You will feel it in your bones, this soft but unshakable conviction. They do not need to know. Let them wonder, because in that wondering your power grows. In that silence, your path deepens. Let them wonder why you are not posting as much, why you stopped explaining your plans, why you no longer attend every conversation that begs for your voice. Let them wonder what you are working on, where you have gone, why you are so quiet. Let them create their own stories, because none of those stories are yours to fix, and none of them change the truth you are building something too powerful for noise. You see, there is strength in mystery, not manipulation, not deception, but sacred separation, a space between who you are and what they assume, and in that space something rare begins to grow, unshakable confidence, the kind that no longer needs defense, no longer flinches when misunderstood, no longer panics when left out, because it has learned that not being seen is not the same as being lost. The need to be understood is often the last thread of the old self. It whispers, explain yourself, make them see, tell them where you are headed. But the wiser part of you already knows every time you explain you lose a little of the fire. Every time you hand over your unfolding to someone who cannot carry it, you lose a piece of the purity. So let them wonder, not out of arrogance, but out of focus. You are not hiding. You are refining. You are not disappearing. You are becoming. And the path of becoming is narrow, quiet, and holy. It does not make room for spectators. It does not send invitations. It does not come with commentary. It is a long road walked by those who are willing to trade popularity for purpose. Let them wonder why your pace is different, why your language has changed, why your energy feels heavier, deeper, more anchored. Let them whisper. Let them guess. Let them think you have slowed down when in truth you are sharpening at a level they cannot yet comprehend, because your silence is not empty, it is concentrated. This is your season to reclaim the sacred, to build something so real within yourself that it does not need to be proven. That kind of becoming makes people nervous. It disrupts patterns. It unsettles expectations. Because we live in a world where everything must be explained, performed, announced. But you are not of that world anymore. You are not here to explain, you are here to embody. An embodiment needs no defense, so do not waste another breath convincing them. Let your results speak. Let your presence change the temperature of a room. Let your choices create questions that your mouth never needs to answer. That is what it means to walk in quiet power. Some will think you fell off. Let them. Some will think you gave up. Let them. Some will think you are lost. Let them. Because one day when your roots rise through the surface and your foundation becomes undeniable, those same people will say, "Where did this come from?" And you will say nothing, because you do not need to. The fruit will speak for the tree. So ask yourself, where are you still trying to be understood, when you should be letting them wonder? What are you still explaining, defending, or posting that should instead be protected? What if your next breakthrough depends not on how well you perform, but how well you protect what you are becoming? Let that question move you, let it challenge you, and if it speaks to your soul, I invite you to answer it in the comments. What are you choosing to keep sacred in silence? Let this be your declaration, not to the world, but to yourself. And if this message helped you, share it with someone who needs the courage to go quiet. We are not here to prove. We are here to become. And subscribe to the channel if you want to keep walking this silent road with us. It may be quiet, but it leads somewhere extraordinary. Chapter 11. When silence becomes strategy. Most people think silence is passive, a void, an absence, a weakness. But the ones who rise know the truth. Silence is strategy. It is a decision, a move, a shield, a weapon. Because in a world obsessed with noise, the one who controls their voice controls their power. There comes a time when you stop speaking because every word costs too much, not in pride but in energy. Every explanation steals momentum. Every update invites opinions you never asked for. Every status, every post, every performance adds another voice to the already loud room in your mind. And so you stop. Not because you are giving up, but because you are giving everything to the work. You begin to realize that silence is not the absence of communication. It is the highest form of intention. It is you saying, "I am no longer available for distraction. I am no longer performing for participation. I am no longer leaking energy into places that do not multiply me." And when you make that shift, the world around you gets quieter, yes, but the world within you gets louder. You start hearing the deeper call, the deeper truth, the path that no one else sees. And in that clarity you become dangerous, not because you are aggressive, but because you are undisturbed. There is a reason kings move in silence. There is a reason generals whisper before battles. There is a reason the most powerful people in history were not the ones shouting, they were the ones building, the ones strategizing, the ones stepping back from the noise so they could see 10 moves ahead while everyone else was busy trying to win attention. You must understand, attention is cheap. It can be bought, it can be faked, it can be manufactured. But alignment, true inner clarity, cannot be copied. It must be earned. And you earn it by making silence your sanctuary, by turning down the volume of the world until your own voice is the only one that guides you. This is not about hiding. This is not about secrecy for the sake of mystery. This is about alignment for the sake of direction. Because the more clear you are on who you are becoming, the less you feel the need to explain where you are now. You stop narrating your progress. You stop documenting your decisions. You stop giving people access to the inner workings of something they will only understand once it is complete. And yes, they will feel the distance. They will ask questions. They will wonder what happened. They might even say, "You changed." And the truth is, you have. Because when you stop living for reaction, you start building for impact. When you stop explaining your every step, your steps become more deliberate, more grounded, more unstoppable. This is the phase where silence becomes a superpower, not because it hides your strength, but because it preserves it. Every ounce of energy you once gave away in explanation now gets reinvested into action, into vision, into execution. You are no longer distracted by optics. You are obsessed with outcomes, and that obsession makes you magnetic. You do not need to chase opportunities anymore. They start to come to you, not because you are visible, but because you are inevitable. You have been moving with too much intention for too long to be ignored. That is what happens when you choose silence over spectacle. You stop looking for the light and become it. But hear me clearly, this path is not for the faint of heart. There will be days when you doubt your direction, days when you are tempted to share, to explain, to justify your silence. Resist it. Stand firm. Trust the process. Because what you are building in the dark will shine so bright in time, it will make sense to everyone who once questioned your quiet. And for those who never understand, let them go, not out of anger, but because they were only meant to know the version of you that needed noise. And that version is gone, buried in the ashes of your own becoming. So ask yourself now, where in your life does your silence need to become your strategy? Where are you still trying to win people who were never built to carry your vision? Where are you spending your words when you should be investing in your actions? Leave your answer in the comments, not to announce it, but to cement it. And if this message stirred something inside you, share it with someone who is ready to stop talking and start building. We are not here to be impressive. We are here to be immovable. Subscribe if you are walking this road. And remember, silence is not retreat. It is positioning. Chapter 12. The final quiet before the rise. There is a silence that arrives before every great elevation. It is not the silence of quitting. It is not the silence of fear. It is the silence of alignment, of precision, of clarity. It is the moment when everything inside you stops reaching outward and begins drawing inward, collecting strength, sharpening intention, preparing for the next level. This final quiet is not easy. It will test every inch of your discipline, because it feels like nothing is happening. You have done the work. You have said less. You have shown up in the dark day after day, and still the world remains quiet in return. No applause, no big moment, no visible reward. But do not be deceived. The silence is not absence, it is pressure. It is the unseen shift of a life about to break open. The caterpillar knows this silence. Just before its wings unfold, it dissolves completely. No movement, no signal, just stillness. And in that stillness, transformation completes itself. The silence becomes the signal, not of death, but of destiny. And when it emerges, it does not explain itself. It flies. You must hold through this, because this is where most people break, not from the pain of the process, but from the pain of not being seen during it. They start to panic. They start to speak too soon. They start to reach for visibility, for reassurance, for something, anything that tells them it is working. And in that reaching, they lose the very momentum they spent months building. But not you. You are learning to trust the unseen. You are learning that not all growth is measurable. Not all success is public. Not all progress is obvious. Some of the most powerful shifts you will ever experience will happen in complete silence. No one will notice, not even you, until one day you wake up and realize, I am not who I was. This quiet is sacred. It is not the end. It is the turning point, the deep inhale before the exhale, the moment just before the arrow is released. You are not stuck. You are being drawn back, focused, poised, so that when you move, it will be with the force of everything you have been building in secret. This is why you stopped telling them what you do. This is why you disappeared. This is why you walked away from noise, from applause, from shallow praise, because you knew, even if only faintly, that your power was not in being seen. It was in being undeniable when you chose to appear. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are becoming. quietly, powerfully, precisely, and the quieter you become, the louder your future roars. There will be a moment soon when the silence breaks, when the world begins to notice, when everything shifts, and when it does, you will not need to explain. You will not need to tell your story in defense. Your results will speak with the gravity of someone who paid the price in solitude. But until then, stay in the final quiet. Hold the line. Let the silence finish its work. Let the foundation settle so deeply that nothing can shake what you are about to build. Do not announce your return. Return by becoming unignorable. Return by becoming the answer to questions they did not even know they were asking. And if you have been walking this path in silence, leave a single word in the comments. Ready, not for attention, not for applause, but as a silent nod to those who are building in the dark beside you. We may be quiet, but we are not alone. If this message reminded you of who you really are, share it. Let it be a whisper in someone's storm, and subscribe if you are ready to live the next chapter, not louder but deeper. The silence is almost over. Chapter 13, The Day They Realize. There will be a day silent, unexpected, and deeply unforgettable when everything you have been building will rise without a sound. It will not begin with a celebration. It will not arrive with a spotlight. There will be no parade, no announcement, just impact, just presence, just the quiet force of a life so deeply forged in fire that nothing can shake it. And on that day, they will realize. They will realize you were never idle. You were incubating. While they watched others sprint, you were learning how to run with purpose. While they talked, you listened. While they reached for approval, you reached for depth. While they mastered the algorithm, you mastered yourself. They will look at you not with arrogance in their eyes, but confusion in their voice. When did this happen? And you will not answer, because there is no single moment, no one instant where it all came together. There is only the discipline of the unseen, the daily choice to show up with no reward, the decision to build in silence when it would have been easier to seek attention, the sacred grind behind every closed door. They will see what they thought was sudden success, but you will know the truth. You were not overnight, you were timeless. They will scroll back through your life looking for signs. Did I miss something? Did they say this was coming? Did they hint at it? And they will find nothing, because you did not leak your power into previews. You did not dilute your process for content. You chose to carry the weight quietly. You chose to disappear so you could develop. And now you are undeniable. But this chapter is not about revenge. This is not about proving them wrong, because by now you will have outgrown the need for vindication. That is the mark of real growth. You no longer crave recognition from those who could not see you before. You do not need their understanding. You do not need their validation. You have become someone whose results speak louder than explanations ever could. The ones who doubted you. You will feel nothing toward them. Not bitterness, not anger, only understanding. Because you were not ready to be seen then. Your strength was still forming. Your clarity was still sharpening. If they had believed in you too soon, you may have crumbled under the pressure. Their disbelief protected your process more than they will ever know. Let them realize in their own time. Let them look back and remember how quiet you were. Let them recall the moments you smiled and nodded, never revealing what was forming inside you. Let them remember how you said, "I am working on myself," and left it at that. Because now it is clear you were not just working, you were becoming. And the world will begin to shift. The calls will come in, the invitations, the questions, but you will no longer feel rushed, no longer feel the need to take every opportunity. Because you know now, when your life is built on silence, it is not driven by scarcity, it is grounded in abundance. You choose what aligns and you release what distracts. You are no longer available for urgency. You move only by strategy. There is a rare kind of peace that arrives when you finally live from your own rhythm, when your success is no longer a performance but a natural result, When your name rises in rooms you have never entered, not because you fought for it, but because you earned it in silence. You did not knock on doors, you became the key. But here is what no one tells you: when you arrive, you will miss the silence. You will miss the invisible years, not the doubt, not the hardship, but the purity, the stillness, the intimacy between you and your craft, between you and the version of yourself no one else saw. The part of you that woke up every day and said, "I am doing this even if no one notices." That version of you is the hero, the seed, the reason this harvest exists. So remember this: honor the quiet days. Cherish the hidden moments. Do not rush through the process in hopes of being seen, because when they finally realize who you have become, it will not be the announcement that changes your life. It will be the fact that you no longer need to announce anything at all. If you have reached this point in your own journey, if you are rising in silence, waiting without panic, building without praise, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below with one thing you are becoming that no one knows about yet. Let it be a sacred offering to your future self. And if this message reminded you of your own power, share it with someone else walking through the shadows. They may need to know they are not alone. Subscribe if you have chosen the quiet road, the one with fewer signs, fewer cheers, but deeper roots and higher ground. The day they realize is coming. But you already know. Resetting the mind from exposure to embodiment. Pause. You have come a long way, not just through the words on these pages, but through your own private awakening. Something inside you has been shifting, hasn't it? A quiet reordering, a soft rebellion, a refusal to keep living for the applause of a world that does not even hear its own echo. And now here you are, not looking for more advice, but staring into the mirror of your own choices. This is the part where you reset your mind. Because up until now, you were taught to believe that your value increases when others see it. That if your effort is not acknowledged, it is wasted. That silence equals weakness, and visibility equals validation. But that was a lie, and you know it now. You have lived the exhaustion of constant exposure. You have tasted the hollowness of being seen but not sustained, and somewhere along the road you realized being witnessed is not the same as being whole. So today, we draw a line, a clean, clear final line between your old standard and your new one. Old standard, if they do not know, it does not count. New standard, if it does not align, I do not say a word. Old standard, let me prove I am working. New standard, let me prove it to myself in silence. Old standard, maybe if I share this step, they will believe in me. New standard, belief is not borrowed, it is built. Your mind must now obey a different master. Not fear, not ego, not doubt, but embodiment. Embodiment is when your actions speak so clearly, your life becomes a sermon. It is when your integrity grows so strong that no explanation is needed. When you reset your mind to embodiment, you stop managing perception and start mastering presence. And in that presence, there is no room for leaking energy into proving anything to anyone. Let me ask you now, what has your need to be understood actually cost you? Not in words, but in peace, in time, in momentum. How many ideas have died in the draft because you waited to be validated before you acted? How many sacred visions have you bent, diluted, or delayed just so they would be easier to explain? And how much longer will you keep negotiating with your destiny because you fear being doubted? This is not self-help. This is self-ownership. You do not need another motivation speech. You need a standard, a law within yourself that says, I do not betray my process just to feel seen. And once you make that law unbreakable, everything in your life will start to obey it. Your words will become fewer but stronger. Your circle may shrink, but your peace will expand. Your schedule will simplify. Your energy will sharpen. And your results will become inevitable, not because you announced them, but because you became them. You are not here to explain. You are here to embody. So take a breath, not the shallow breath of someone trying to be enough, the deep breath of someone who already is. Inhale the truth. I do not need to be seen to be significant. I do not need to be heard to have impact. I do not need to be followed to be free. Exhale the noise, the pressure, the patterns. Let them leave your mind like smoke rising from a fire that no longer needs to burn. Your mind is clean now. And with that clarity comes responsibility. You cannot go back to performing. You cannot go back to narrating every step. You cannot go back to seeking confirmation from people who have never walked your path. This reset is not for comfort, it is for creation. You are creating a new identity, one decision at a time, and that identity does not leak, it does not beg, it does not broadcast, it builds. So from this moment forward, ask yourself daily, is this action from ego or embodiment? Is this post to serve or to be seen? Is this update necessary, or is it another way I am asking for permission? The answers will shape everything. If you feel the shift already happening, I ask you to name it. In the comments, write one sentence that declares your new standard, not for performance, but for power. And if this chapter has served you, share it with someone who is ready to stop chasing attention and start living in alignment. Subscribe to stay connected to this new rhythm. We are building lives here, not just stories. And the ones who live by embodiment never need to ask if they are enough. They walk it, they breathe it, they are it. The final call become the storm they never saw coming. This is it. Not the end of a book, but the beginning of a life you can no longer postpone. The pages are full, the message is clear. The silence has taught you what noise never could. You were never meant to live explained. You were meant to live undeniable. Now it is time to become. Not someone louder, not someone more followed, not someone more liked, but someone whose existence cannot be overlooked because it is too real, too rooted, too complete to be questioned. You do not need another quote, another plan, another round of applause. You need to move. No more pretending you do not know who you are. No more hiding behind potential. No more sharing just to feel alive. That version of you, the one addicted to being noticed, the one who waited for the world to believe, is gone. You buried them in the silence. You lit the fire. You did not run. And because of that, what rises now will be unstoppable. But let this be known, the world is not ready. They expect you to play small, to wait your turn, to explain before you arrive. But you will not. You will move like a force they cannot prepare for, not to shock them, but because you no longer ask them for direction. You do not walk into rooms hoping to be accepted. You enter with authority because you built it in the dark. This is your moment, not because it looks dramatic on the surface, but because deep down everything in you has shifted. Your silence was not just a tactic, it was the training ground. Every quiet decision, every unnoticed morning, every time you showed up without telling a soul, it was building something unbreakable inside you. You are no longer trying to become. You are. You are the storm that formed when no one was watching, the fire that grew in a world obsessed with ice, the breath they did not think would last, the chapter they thought had ended. And now, as you step into this next level, you do not carry doubt. You carry destiny. You do not announce. You arrive. The ones who once asked, "What do you do?" will ask, "How did you become this?" The ones who overlooked you will remember. The ones who doubted you will wonder why they ever did. And the ones who truly knew, they will not say a word. They will simply nod, because they felt this moment coming. Let them be surprised. Let them be shaken. Let them feel the quiet force of someone who no longer needs to shout. And now I say this to you with everything I have left. Do not wait. Do not pause for permission. Do not water down your next step just to make it palatable. Do not delay your rise for another round of validation. You have already paid for this level in silence, in sweat, in solitude. Now cash it in. Build the business. Make the move. Say less, do more. Become the person even your younger self did not dare to imagine. Because the world does not change when people talk about their dreams. It changes when someone finally lives them. Let that someone be you. Now go. Walk quietly, but carry a presence that cannot be denied. The world will hear you without you ever needing to say a word. You are ready.